So I'm actually going to try a new style of reacting to videos. I haven't done this in the past, but I've noticed that this is what a lot of people do, and if I'm doing it unscripted, I might as well do it properly. I don't know, let's just see how it goes. Something I have to mention is this will be the third time I've watched this video. I watched it once because I saw it on Twitter, and I was like, okay, how bad is it? It's bad. It's really bad. This video is really bad, guys, but we'll get into that. But then I watched it with my mom because it was so bad that I was like, look, I gotta share this with you because, like, what the hell? So that's why I want to react to that today, and we'll see how this goes. I don't know. I've never reacted to anything like this before. Yeah, okay, let's get into it. Yeah, I don't know if any other people are going to cover this, but I think it is so insane. And I've tried to watch his other videos, and I don't get it. I can't click with it. It throws me off so bad. I don't like this man, but I'm trying to be unbiased and impartial and just give a clear review. So one of the big reasons why I want to review this is because I'm uneducated. My entire channel is based around feelings and opinions. It has a little bit to do with psychology as well, which has to do with facts, but it's also the feelings of facts. You know what I mean? I relate to this guy on the sense that he doesn't do a lot of research. The research I do is related to psychology. I'm very uneducated, and so that doesn't mean he just gets the pass to make bad videos about serious topics. Like, if I make a bad video, I expect people to call me out on it. And the one thing I don't know about is, are his statistics true? Here. He's like, oh my god, my browser history. Dude, incognito exists. You can save things without going into your browser history. Just put it into Google so that you can copy and paste links. It's very chill. You don't have to throw a fit about it. It's something you hate to have to verify, but he's wrong. Stepmom shows up every single time for 3 years in a row, and it'll probably show up this year too, if we're being honest. So with that out of the way.
Have you been on Pornhub lately? Let me rephrase that. Have you been on Pornhub statistics lately? I'll be honest, it felt like something was missing. If you look at the top searched categories for 2023, you'll notice there's a particular genre that seems to be absent from any gender, age, location, or device-based data set. At least, that's what you'd think if you took one look at the front page of Pornhub proper.
So the biggest issue with this is that stepmom literally appears on there. So does MILF. MILF doesn't have to be incestuous, but it's on there. That is mother related. It could be. You see where I'm going with that? Other people have pointed that out. It's just weird that he mentions porn at all and then is just straight up wrong. Like, his statistics actually do mention the thing he's saying they don't mention. It's a very weird point to bring up.
Please, I'm getting somewhere with this. I am on my way to a point.
I just want to point out, he doesn't actually get to his point until 20 minutes in the video while he says that, and so it's so insane.
No, I mean stories that intentionally focus on the topic of incest in their story. Take Clueless, for example.
I despise how he describes the plot of Clueless, so here it is. Shallow, rich, and socially successful Cher is at the top of her Beverly Hills High School's pecking scale. Seeing herself as a matchmaker, Cher first coaxes two teachers into dating each other. Emboldened by her success, she decides to give hopelessly klutzy new student Ty a makeover. When Ty becomes more popular than she is, Cher realizes that her disapproving ex-stepbrother was right about how misguided she was, and falls for him.
He says that they focus on incest as the main point in the plot, but then he mentions Clueless, which does not focus on incest.
The whole point of the movie is sticking to the status quo.
Stick to the status quo.
And in turn, breaking it by dating your ex-step-sibling, which breaks social and societal norms.
The only right thing he gets on this is the issue with the age gap. Like, I don't like the 17 and 20 age gap because it's a power dynamic and it's a weird age gap.
Okay, so they put the relationships here at ages 21 and 17, which is still bad, but you get the point. Not to mention that Cher is in high school while Josh is going to college. But again,
but that's me.
Stepbrother Andrew, they're not literally related by blood. That would be wrong. No. We're not starting this again, okay? Now go sit in the corner and try not to hit on any minors.
Also, saying that if you say that they're just step-siblings that you like minors is such a weird thing to say because he's trying to point out that, like, Cher's a minor, so obviously if you defend it, then you're also defending the age gap in the show. But, like, who the fuck said that? Literally nobody said that.
Cher forces the people around her to conform to her expectations, and she causes turmoil among her friends and loved ones because of it. But by the end of the movie, she learns that love is love. And just because you like someone who's poorer than you, or dumber than you, or more related to you than you, you know, that shouldn't stop you from... Is that really the message we're going for here?
I have to admit that I've never seen Clueless, and everything I'm going off of is based off of what I've been told and what I've researched online. I've already come to the conclusion that it's her dating what used to be her stepbrother is obviously her breaking the status quo. Like, that's a part of the movie.
This modern retelling of an old story just doesn't sit right. This story's message doesn't change if you make Cher and Josh not related to each other.
The thing he says here irks me so bad because throughout this video, you'll see that he defends incest as long as it has a good plot, which is so insane. Either be against it or defend it. You can't sit in the middle. That's weird as fuck.
I don't remember Leonardo DiCaprio's Romeo and Juliet making a big deal out of the fact that Juliet was supposed to be 12, while Romeo was at least 18.
Depending on the retelling, Juliet is 13 to 15 years old, and Romeo is 16 to 18 years old. So calling her 12 and 18 is such a weird bending of the retellings. If she's 12, then he's 16. It's always a 4-year age gap. That's why Romeo and Juliet laws are a 4-year age gap. That's the whole point. She was not 12 and he was not 18.
It's his differing perspective on life and Cher's eventual realization that there are more important things than social status that drive their eventual romance. Not the details of whether they had Thanksgiving dinner together for several years while their parents were boinking. Like, as if.
I genuinely cannot figure out what his point is in mentioning the fact that the parents fucked. Like, why are we talking about that? I seriously cannot figure out why.
They're not related by blood, their parents are divorced, and while we don't know how long their parents were married, they're not even technically related anymore. At that point, it just seems like a convenient way to introduce the character's relationship to the audience and build a more personal history between them.
Here, he's setting up another issue. First off, you can hear him defending it where he's going, but the plot's not good enough. That literally doesn't matter. If you're talking about incest, the plot is not the issue here. Either you want them to make more incest in the media so that we can frown upon it, or you want them to stop making it at all. You can't just say, but the plot has to be really good. That is so fucking weird. I can't get over that. And then the second thing is, he keeps saying that they broke laws.
If you want to tell a story about breaking social norms to be with the person you love, that's fine. But maybe also don't break literal laws at the same time, you know?
But then later on he says this.
It also allows us to peek into the social dynamics that would still exist even without explicit laws prohibiting incest.
Obviously, you'll hear it as it comes up, but I just have to bring it up because he constantly contradicts himself and it just doesn't make sense.
So Jane Austen published Emma in 1815, over 200 years ago, and it's not her only story to mention pairing off with your relatives. In Pride and Prejudice, Elizabeth Bennet is courted by her cousin, Mr. Collins, who will inherit her family's estate after her father passes. She's vehemently opposed to the idea of marrying her cousin. Mostly because he's a squeamish little nerd.
So the question here is, what is he upset with? Is he upset with the fact that they remade an adaptation of this, or is he upset that hundreds of years ago that they had incestuous relationships? Which one is it? You know what I mean?
But this story brings up a very real and shockingly relevant part of European class culture. If you marry within your family, you get to keep your wealth. Even for moderate landowners, inheritance laws encourage them to secure their marriages and money. British royalty is famous for marrying each other and keeping it in the family.
Actually, who gives a fuck about European royalty? Like, I fail to see how this is relevant because he's just... I'm not trying to say he's wrong, but the things he says later on about quote-unquote American royalty is wrong, so I don't like how he's bringing up European royalty. Something about it just throws me off.
But this wasn't just about consolidating power. No. These poor, rich rulers were beholden to the social stigmas of marrying within your class. Even if you didn't want to marry your half-step something or other, how many eligible singles did you really have in your area?
All of it's just giving, what's the point? Why are you telling me this? You keep setting up all this stuff. We're only 5 minutes in and you're talking about European royalty. Do I give a fuck? You know what I mean?
Having a limited pool of people to marry definitely contributed to this stigma of incestuous marriage.
I don't feel like that's true. Again, uneducated, stupid person talking here, just as dumb as he is. But I feel like the issue was not the fact that they didn't have many options. It was the fact that they wanted to keep the bloodline pure and they wanted to keep it inside the family so that they could keep the wealth. That's the whole point. It wasn't the fact that they couldn't go out and meet people. I mean, some did do that. Look at fucking, what's his name? King Henry VIII. Like, he shipped in brides from all over Europe. That wasn't the issue.
But let's zoom out a bit and look at how other countries treat incest. Argentina, Brazil, India, Japan, Latvia, South Korea, Turkey, and Thailand all allow incest without legal repercussions if each person is a consenting adult of a certain age. In fact, it's technically legal in Italy as well, as long as the relationship doesn't become a spectacle.
And I just want to point out, he provides no sources, so I'm going to go through and do it for you.
I'm also going to be listing off the major religions in these countries because Andrew makes a huge deal about religion and incest. So let's get to the root of his issue where it lies.
Argentina.
Incest is legal in Argentina for adults only. However, there are some limitations to the laws, such as age requirements. For example, sexual activity with a child under 13 is considered statutory rape in Argentina. The Argentine Penal Code also states that anyone who promotes or facilitates the corruption of minors under 18 years of age, even with the consent of the victim, shall be punished with imprisonment. 88.77% of Argentines identify as Christian, 6.9% are agnostic, 2% are Muslim.
Brazil.
Incest is legal in Brazil if over 14. However, most marriages in these countries are disallowed or prohibited. In Brazil, the age of consent is 14 years old, which is why it's legalized at that age. 51% of the population of Brazil practices Catholicism, 30% practices Protestantism, 2% practice other Christian religions.
India.
India does not legally define incest, so it is technically legal. However, it is considered sexual exploitation or rape and is punished accordingly. India's population is 79.8% Hindu, 14.2% Muslim, 2.3% Christian, 1.7%.
Japan.
Consensual adult incest is not a crime in Japan. 48.6% of the population practice Shinto, and 46% practice Buddhism.
Latvia.
In Latvia, incest is not criminally prohibited, except as part of the general protection of adolescents from sexual abuse. 62.6% of the Latvian population declared to belong to a Christian denomination.
South Korea.
South Korea's incest laws prohibit marriage between closely related people. The Korean Civil Code's Article 809, which was based on a traditional rule, prohibited marriage between people who share the same surname, ancestral home, and genealogical patriline. The Constitutional Court of Korea ruled this article unconstitutional in 1997, and in 2002 the National Assembly passed an amendment that prohibits marriage between closely related people. However, most South Koreans with the same family name are allowed to marry if they can prove they are not closely related. Most South Koreans have no religion. Buddhism and Christianity, Protestantism and Catholicism, are the dominant confessions among those who affiliate with a formal religion.
Turkey.
Turkey's penal code does not have a specific offense for incest, but Article 102 states that a sexual assault between relatives up to the 3rd degree can increase the punishment for the offender by half. Incest is considered a sexual offense in the penal code. 99% of the population of Turkey is Muslim, with the majority being Sunni. Other religions practiced in Turkey include Christianity.
Thailand.
Incest is illegal in Thailand and is considered a serious crime that is punishable by law and can result in a fine of 30,000, 60,000 rupees and imprisonment for 3 to 6 years. Thailand's population is 92.5% Buddhist, 5.4% Muslim, and 1.2% Christian.
In fact, it's technically legal in Italy as well.
Incest is legal in Italy unless it provokes public scandal. In some countries, incest is legal for adults and legal for minors, but illegal for adults and minors together. Italy is a secular state, but Roman Catholicism is the predominant religion, with 78% of citizens practicing it.
And I want you to keep in mind that he says this about Japan.
I wouldn't associate Japan with incest the way I would with the American South.
For some reason, he literally ties Pride and Prejudice right back to European royalty.
Similarly, Emma finds the value in marrying her brother-in-law out of true love rather than finding a more socially suitable partner or choosing not to marry at all. These messages contrast significantly with the way European royalty views intermarriage between families. It's part of their job to consolidate and hold on to power.
But I don't see how this relates. Like, I understand it's the time period, but that if they're breaking the societal norms, then why are you bringing up the societal norms?
I'd love to chalk the whole Jaime and Cersei bit up to a strictly clinical and calculated move on their father's part to help the Lannisters secure power in the kingdom. But you know they were sexing each other up way before Robert Baratheon was ever in the picture.
This part is where he goes on to defend incest as long as it's plot-driven, which is so weird.
It's worth mentioning, especially while I'm in my psychology armchair, that Jamie also probably has a sister complex, in which the image of one's sister becomes idolized. They're not just attracted to their sibling, but they also feel possessive towards them. Given that all of the Lannister children had to live and suffer under the tyrannical rule of their father, Tywin, it would make sense that Jamie would seek the comfort of his twin sister, especially after the untimely death of their mother while giving birth to Tyrion.
Okay, I don't know if it's just me, but I don't understand why we're psychoanalyzing incest. And that's coming from me, who psychoanalyzes everything and does psychology on this channel. We don't need a reason for it. And he does it at least 3 different times. And it's so weird to me.
As for Cersei, this incestuous relationship was not only a means to usurp power from her abusive husband, Robert, but was also one of self-empowerment and, honestly, self-centeredness. Unlike Brienne of Tarth, who took up the sword to gain power through traditionally masculine means, Cersei denies Robert a true heir, opting to get him drunk enough so that she can finish him off before having actual sex. She seeks power in the way that only a woman could, by controlling who the heir to the Iron Throne is. Her relationship with Jaime was partially to secure the rule of their bloodline, but also of catharsis, since she was never given the respect, authority, or autonomy that Jaime has. Cersei wants to be Jaime, and the act of them having sex together puts her as close to him as possible.
This entire video is me saying I don't understand, and this is so weird, because I don't, and it is. Like, what the fuck are you talking about, sir? Hello? Hello? Are you okay? Did somebody hurt you? Because that is the most fucked up thing I've ever heard a person say. What the fuck?
Very similar to European royalty, the purity of bloodlines was essential to holding on to power. Although the Targaryens look much better than the Habsburgs, if you know what I mean.
I still don't understand why we have to bring Game of Thrones into a real world context and explain away real world incest. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, I feel like it's one thing to be like, hey, isn't it crazy how they use the European bloodline thing and they put it into a show and it made incest? Haha, how crazy is that? No, he's like, dude, look at the fucking intricacies of this thing. This is so cool. It's like, no. Stop. Take a breath. Calm down.
While this context is fascinating and still relevant today, in the US, we don't have any royalty or family bloodlines that are guarded so closely. You don't see the Waltons or the Kardashians or the Rockefellers intermarrying to hold on to their social status.
So he says that in the US we don't have any bloodlines that we guard so closely, but like, look at the Kennedys. Do you see the Kennedys and how upheld they are? You don't have to like them, but they are the royalty of America. And if we want to get really, really specific, are we not going to recognize Hawaii? Like, they're a monarch. What's happening?
Nowhere in the United States is more associated with incest than the American South. It wouldn't be a stereotype if there wasn't at least a little bit of truth to it, right?
That's just a really negative connotation to have. Like, you should not believe that. Stereotypes are bad for a reason. They're just bad. Straight up.
We don't talk about black incest post-slavery for a good reason.
Listen, it's not my place to comment, but this just feels really racist to say, because why do you think that they don't talk about it? Because they don't have birth certificates. They can't talk about it. They didn't know. What the fuck are you talking about? Are you fucking serious?
While there's not a lot of historical evidence that supports an increased amount of incestuous activity happening in places like Appalachia versus the rest of the country, the highly rural nature of these communities did make it more difficult for people to marry outsiders. Before developments like the interstate highway, these communities were extremely isolated. Even if these villages wanted newcomers to come and settle in the area, it simply took more work to make the journey.
I just don't know how I feel about all of this, because he hypes it up and he's like, and he makes it this big thing about Alabama and just gives its whole history, but he genuinely defends Alabama incest here.
The Appalachian and southern US are historically poor, isolated areas where the community's survival was more important than social status. That's not to say that xenophobia and racism weren't rampant in these parts. Skip through several generations of family growth on private land with an incredibly xenophobic view of outsiders, and you have a community of very related people.
We should stop calling it xenophobia and start calling it what it is. It was racism. They were being racist towards black people, and they're being racist towards other people. They weren't being xenophobic.
Hence, from my cursory analysis, is why we associate these regions with an increased tie to incest with terms like kissing cousins and sweet home Alabama jokes. And again, there's no widely accepted empirical data that suggests this behavior was exclusive to the southern United States. I'm sure you'd find this social phenomenon in any rural part of the world. So it's not exactly fair to compare these communities to the hyper taboo scenarios in pornography or even in sensationalized film and television.
Oh my god, what do you mean? Like, actual incest is not comparable to incest? What are you talking about? What do you mean? Genuinely explain yourself right now.
These people aren't marrying their literal brothers and sisters. They're marrying their extended cousins, and not because they specifically want to. Also, the terminology of step-family relations is nowhere near the same dynamic as the small communities with semi-distant cousins.
Like, what are you talking about? I can't form a thought. I'm going nonverbal. You're so stupid. You're so stupid. What is wrong with you? Oh my god. My brain is shutting off. What the fuck? You're so stupid. Oh my god.
You cannot say that actual incest between cousins to the point of genetic mutations and specific failing genes is non-comparable to the media, especially when the media you include is Clueless, a movie about a stepbrother with zero relation to her, a movie where the main protag decides not to marry her cousin, and Game of Thrones, and porn. Two of these things is not like the other, and it sure as fuck is not the Alabama incest, you weird bitch.
Movies like Deliverance, which conflate these themes with the South, are in the vast minority of media we consume. I mean, we don't have droves of porn stars out there with southern drawls.
We do. I'm almost positive we do. You can't just say that there's no porn stars with southern drawls. What are you talking about? Hello? Are you hearing what I'm hearing?
It's so minimizing to say there's no porn stars with southern drawls. That's a massive fallacy, and I can't even pinpoint which one it is. You just want to be right to be right.
Sex work is such a big industry. Why wouldn't there be any with a southern drawl? What is that supposed to mean? Is it a joke? Am I too autistic to get this?
I wonder how they'll play that one out. And we never see them ever again. They have this wild twist that nobody saw coming and was not alluded to at all, and then they're cut from the show so that Obi can begin a new character arc? What an incredible waste of context and character development.
Here's the next part where he starts saying that if there's no plot in it, then the incest isn't good enough for media, which is such a weird take to have because, like, what are you talking about? That is so silly. That is silly. Right? That is a very weird point of view to have. Like, either, I've said it before in this video, but you're either against incest or you're not. You can't be in the middle, sitting on the fence, being like, but if it's good enough, though. Like, no. That's not how morals work. You're morally not against incest.
It's not like we haven't seen this relationship before. See Game of Thrones. But if you're going to go there, you might as well have something to say about it. That's like bringing up 9/11 in a romance movie just because it'll be sad. Wait.
I can't add anything valuable of substance because my brain breaks every time he speaks because I'm just so dumbfounded by the fact that he's defending incest. How did we come to this point? You're talking about the incest epidemic. I think the epidemic is you and your search history and you alone. Let's be real. You've listed off a couple of movies that are not anywhere close to modern day. I mean, I guess they're modern day. They're from the 2000s and before. But, like, it's not anything past 2010. So, like, how is it an epidemic if it's not ongoing?
And now those characters aren't returning, and we won't get any additional context or nuance to the plotline. Like, what? Is Obi gonna suddenly have a vendetta out for all twins? Is he gonna date only children from now on? Whoa. Whoa. Only childs. Single child families.
Shut up. We don't give a fuck.
If I don't get put on a list, it'll be a miracle.
Please get put on a list. I'm begging.
Well, I just thought, Grace is already cheating on Obi, so we might as well make her cheat with her brother, right? Really spice it up. No, I do not have plans to continue this plotline. There's no reason to have the characters make this decision.
Here's my dead honest opinion. If you're going to bring up incest in the media, you better give us something to frown at. Like, give us a reason, tell us why it's bad. Obviously, we already know morally it's bad, but I feel like you should still be able to play around with those plot points as long as you make it a bad thing. Does that make sense? Like, don't glamorize it, don't glorify it, just make it what it is. I don't see why we can touch on miscarriages and abortions and rape and sexual assault and all these other things in TV media, but incest is cut off. That's the one taboo that's no. Maybe I'm weird as fuck for that. Call me out for that if that's bad, but, like, I don't see why in the media, we're not allowed to frown at it.
But like I was saying with Clueless, if you're going to bring up the whole weird thing of incest, you should have something to say about it.
Why does it have, like in his thing, he keeps going, well, it has to have a good plot. No. Why does it have to be a good thing? Incest is never good. Make it bad and frame it as bad and have that be that. That's what the quote is saying in Gossip Girls. It's saying that he deals with the consequences of it. Heaven forbid he has to deal with the consequences and you don't get a juicy subplot from the incest. Right, Andrew?
Veronica Mars is a scorned and outcast teenage detective who was sexually assaulted at a party by an unknown assailant who she discovers could be her ex-boyfriend Duncan Kane, only to realize that she's related to him. And it turns out that they actually had consensual blackout drunk sex that Veronica doesn't remember, which is totally different than having non-consensual blackout drunk sex. And the whole thing completely ignores the fact that regardless of whether the blackout drunk sex was okay or not, pro tip Rob, it's not, they were literally related and had sex.
I have never seen this. Again, I haven't watched any of the things that he's talking about. I'm being dead honest with you. But I can still get from what he's showing that they're not trying to make incest out to be a good thing. I mean, they're literally screaming at each other, yelling that it's bad.
I slept with you.
But it was consensual, right?
Yes.
Then what about that is so wrong?
Because you're my sister.
Like, hello, is the message not clear enough for you? And I'm glad that he sits here and shames the parents instead of shaming the two people who did not know better.
Imagine bringing your half-brother to the house and nobody mentioning that you shouldn't be dating. Bad parents. This obviously doesn't absolve either of their parents for keeping this a secret, especially when they're literally hooking up, but that's where the drama comes in. It's intriguing to play around with a plot like this because, through no fault of their own, they've literally done something illegal that could have biological consequences if they were to carry a baby.
Because, first of all, she was drugged and she literally could not tell any better. Or at least that's what Andrew claimed she was. I've never seen the show or movie. And then their parents never told them. So all the blame is on the parents and then obviously them if they keep continuing. But then he brings up the point of genetic attraction. Like, honestly, do I give a shit?
Veronica and Duncan's sexual attraction to each other can be explained through a phenomenon called the consanguineous relationship, or more plainly, genetic sexual attraction.
Like, do I? Because I don't think I do. Like, I don't think I need an explanation as to why this happens. I know why it happens genetically. And also, he does nothing to explain what he means by adoptive children.
This describes the attraction that two related individuals can have with each other that's not just limited by blood relations, but can also relate to half-siblings, adopted children, and lesser-related family members.
What he means by that is that adoptive children may accidentally find biological siblings or biological parents. I don't want to say in the wild, but just out naturally in the world, and they won't know because sometimes the records are sealed and they'll fall in love and it won't be until they find out that they're related that, they're related. And it happens to adopted children in that manner. And I don't like that he doesn't explain that. Because my mom was confused about that. And if she's confused about that, imagine how other people are.
It also allows us to peek into the social dynamics that would still exist even without explicit laws prohibiting incest.
You can see how he uses psychology to defend incest and be like, but it makes sense though, doesn't it? And I'm like, how about we just stop altogether and you stop defending incest? Just let it exist and have it be a bad thing. Like, can we just look at it and have it be bad? Is that okay? Or do we all have to glorify it like you do?
But that's where the drama comes in. It's intriguing to play around with a plot like this because, through no fault of their own, they've literally done something illegal that could have biological consequences if they were to carry a baby.
And what the fuck do you mean it's intriguing? Like, stop being weird and gross. Stop liking incest for 5 minutes, I beg of you.
Using relationships like this in movies and television creates taboo plot points that give viewers a chance to think, what if? Without real damage done.
He says no real damage is done, but he's not thinking about the fact that if you glorify incest in the media, that's going to make people think that it's okay to do it. That does have a real effect and real harm to it.
It's just another situation that begs the question, why bother making them related? If you're going to focus on Veronica's possible claim to Duncan's family inheritance, then don't get bogged down by the very serious sexual assault plot you've got going on. And if you're going to have a sexual assault mystery vendetta, don't make the answer, well, technically it's no fault assault, and technically it's your brother, so maybe you should just let it go. But actually somebody did come in afterwards and actually assault you, so technically it was a real assault. Like, guys, Pick a story and stick to it.
Also, this bothers me because have you never seen Thriller? They constantly have setups like this where it's one thing leads to another, but then that's a letdown and it's not real and it's a faux pas. It's a red herring. That's how a good story is written. It's not instantly plot A, plot B, plot C, plot D. You know what I mean? Like, that's just how some thrillers are set up. Learn to watch other genres for once.
This is a relatively recent phenomenon, and though the cultural and historical and social context plays a part in the growing trend, why now? Why this? Why am I still talking about it?
20 minutes into the video, and this is when he starts to get to the point. How insane is that? Like, honestly, I can't get over that.
30 fucking minutes for us. I'm sorry for this hell. It's not over yet.
What's the emotional or character-driven connection between a stay-at-home mom and a plumber, or a pizza boy, or any non-related male interaction? They've never met before, and the reason why it may be intriguing to watch is because the mystery of a chance encounter and also a taboo nod that the wife may be cheating on her husband. When you think about it, it's the act of betraying a long-term relationship, or the contrast between that long-term relationship and the spur-of-the-moment fling that's intriguing to audiences.
This is where he goes on to explain for the millionth time why incest is taboo and why we as a society are interested in it. Not me. Don't fucking get me wrong with that nasty ass. Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm gonna let some of this play.
Either of these scenarios has little to do with the current on-screen relationship. One character is used as a conduit for the other's satisfaction, leaving half of the scene underdeveloped. When you compared this tired plot device with something like a MILF plot, the audience is given a lot more context to the people they're watching without the actors having to say anything. We can discern that they've known each other for a long time, most of their lives perhaps. There's internal conflict for both of the characters between their desires and the social rules they're breaking. Not to mention, there are an infinite number of locations families go to, activities they do together, and situations they might find themselves in.
Is there any words for that? He's just weird as fuck, right? Like, I don't know what to say. This entire thing essentially gives a justification as to why incest is okay, in a way. Do you see what I mean? Like, it's this weird setup where it's like, oh, but it gives them more context to the scene, so it makes sense as to why they do it. And it's like, no, let's not. We don't need to think deeper into this. It's not that deep. It's not that fucking deep.
I'm sure if you asked most people about their porn consumption, they wouldn't be interested in telling you about their interest in this plot line. But there's a reason almost every video seems to use familial language.
First of all, this man has never seen porn before. I might take that back the second I say it, because this man has watched too much porn at the same time. He has fucking porn brain rot. He needs fucking some therapy for his porn addiction. All that to say, he's not watched enough porn to realize that porn with no plot is a huge thing. You don't need plot. That's a genre in itself. And then second thing.
And just to get away from the grossness for a little bit, the same could be said for scenes with siblings, friends.
You're calling it gross? Are we five? I think this next part was a total mindfuck for me. He essentially says that people, and I am going to spoil it for you, but we'll still go through it. He says that people are rebelling against Christianity, and that's why they use incestuous language. Hello?
Like I always say, media is a reflection of society. And in this case, society is really pushing the boundaries of legality on this one. When we're making these jokes, we're not consciously acknowledging the legality of what we're saying, but we are flirting with the social boundaries of what's acceptable. When you try to have a serious discourse about the subject, I'd wager that most people wouldn't be down to have their partner call them mommy or daddy. Don't prove me wrong on this.
I will prove you wrong on this, because I know for a fact from my friends that they do like that. You are so annoying, to be honest. Just straight up annoying.
Using his own sources, aka Pornhub statistics, women are actually 96% more likely to search for dad and daddy compared to men. The daddy kink, of course, extends well beyond the heterosexual community. According to their 2018 Year in Review report, searches for the term daddy experienced significant growth on the Pornhub gay page. While it didn't reach most searched status, daddy did make it into the top 5. Outside of this, according to Cosmopolitan, 29% of pure dating app users enjoy calling their partner daddy, and 34% consider it a playful term.
Like, mommy and papi, hello? Yes, please.
For the last time, man, it's not complex, it's very simple. I like MILFs.
So he acknowledged MILFs. So does that mean that it showing up on the list is an incest thing or not? You know what I mean? Like, what is it?
I didn't talk about this, so I will now.
More likely it stems from the absolute stranglehold the Puritans and Christianity have on Western culture. Remember, many other nations haven't felt the need to make incest illegal, and as such, their language and media don't put as much weight on the concept.
Andrew seems to have a vendetta against Christianity, and talks down to it a lot. I don't give a fuck about religion personally. Shit talk it all you want. But it seems like a major piece of contention for him is incest existed to negate Christianity, which makes no sense.
I wouldn't associate Japan with incest the way I would with the American South.
Literally says I wouldn't associate Japan with incest. Hello?
Japan? The same one he listed off earlier as not having laws against incest? The one with incest in anime and hentai? He's so focused on porn, but completely fails to mention that? What's the deal?
It breaks my brain. This is why I don't make videos sometimes. When I say I'm burnt out and it kills me, these people, my brain, you've broken me, sir. Andrew, you've literally broken my brain.
And part of that has to do with the fact that there are literally Japanese creation stories that involve incest. For instance, the divine brother and sister Izanagi and Izanami married, and their copulation produced the Japanese islands.
It's not just about the creation stories, dude. What about the hentai? What about the anime? What about, I could list off a million words that would get me age restricted on YouTube. Like, there's a lot of issues with Japan, and I don't think the creation stories are just that. No shade to Japan, obviously. Or maybe shade to them. I don't know. That's the one thing I'm neutral on because I'm not educated.
Compare that to the Bible, which states, "Do not dishonor your father by having sexual relations with your mother. She is your mother. Do not have relations with her." Leviticus 18:7. Like, yeah, we had some insecure men writing the Bible here.
What do you mean by insecure men? Are you saying that because the Bible says incest is bad, that the Bible is bad? Because I feel like that's a relatively good, one of the very few select good Bible verses that exist. Here are a few more. So, like, what are you talking about? Are you good?
Even in Greek and Roman mythology, incest as a concept comes up to explain the world. It's not condoned, but it does exist. Okay, I'm really starting to sound pro-incest here, aren't I?
Yes, you're starting to sound very pro-incest. I mean, he talks about rationalizing the behavior, but not condoning it, and I'm like...
Look, you can still rationalize a human behavior and still not participate in the act of it. That's what a lot of other countries seem to be doing.
How about we don't rationalize incest, actually? I think that's a great idea to not do that.
And we're over here condemning the behavior while all our porn turns into an escape from condemnation. It's hard to understand the severity of repression that everyone in the United States lives under due to Christianity. And the further we separate ourselves from religious social norms, the more we'll encounter taboo subjects.
This is such a fucked up thing to say, I don't even have words for it.
I still don't have words for it, honestly. I still short circuit when I hear it. What do you mean by that exactly? We won't stop condemning it, and I pray to God we don't stop condemning incest. I don't give a shit how much porn or media it shows up in. It's a bad thing.
I'm not saying that incest is awesome and the Bible is bad because it denounces it, but it's worth noting that as each generation rebels against the social structures they're born into, the more they'll try to overcorrect in an attempt to distance themselves from it.
I think he is exactly trying to say that about the Bible. I think he hates the Bible for some reason. Like, you don't have to like Christianity, but you can realize that, like, the Bible doesn't have to hold significance in your life if you don't want it to, but he's letting it. It weighs high in his mind. It doesn't have to. And he thinks it leads to incest in the end, which I think is kind of weird.
A relationship between two similarly aged siblings or another relation lessens the dramatic power imbalance an authority figure has on a usually underaged person.
I don't think this is true at all. I think there's still a power imbalance between sibling incest. I think that's a really fucked up thing to say, honestly. Because would you say that a 13-year-old and a 9-year-old is not a power imbalance? Like, I think it's really fucked up no matter who or what, you know what I mean? I don't think we need to put fucking labels on this.
We tend to focus on stories of religious authority figures committing sexual crimes, but the same is true for abusive parents and is much more widespread. If there's really something that needs to be done about an incest epidemic, then it's about the guardians who take advantage of underage children for sexual gratification.
Okay, so why didn't you make the video about that? Why did you make it about all this media and you didn't get to this until over 27 minutes in the video? This is so fucking weird.
This topic is unique to tackle since it's so nuanced depending on the context in which you view it. If Bridgerton pulled out an incest plot, it would make much more sense than if Stranger Things did. What I'm always looking for when I watch movies and television that use taboo themes like this is whether they're saying something new and interesting that encourages the audience to think about why it was brought up and how they feel affected by it.
Why are we still justifying it? Stop justifying it. Literally just stop justifying it. I hate this video so fucking much. I hope you understand why, and I hope you hate it too.
There's a lot of potential for new stories to be told in this realm, especially with new genealogy methods like 23andMe consistently ruining family dynamics.
He literally offers up solutions for more plot lines in the media. Like, he's justifying it. This man is justifying it. This is so weird.
There's a bit of a social reckoning going on, and I hope the media we see in the future reflects that shift. As we move further into a world where divorce, multi-parent families, and more liberated sex exists, we have to become more comfortable talking about these concepts.
No, we don't. We really don't. We can still frown upon it, and I hope you realize that we're going to continue frowning upon it.
Most people from the American South aren't ashamed of marrying or being with their second or third cousins. It's a product of their environment.
Going by these comments alone, obviously I can't speak for them. I'm not talking about any greater research. People do not agree with him on that. That's just not true.
And if we're gonna critique it, maybe we should also fund the means to help them get out of that situation.
We should fund the racists? Are you sure about that? Are you really sure about that?
And if you want to know if I get canceled after releasing this, be sure to subscribe.
So yeah, he knew he was gonna get canceled. There are tweets with 50,000 likes talking about this and just going through the comments and how much they're flaming him. I mean, let me read some off. In this video, man desperately tries to justify his search history. Should I be concerned if the algorithm recommended me this video? Man really wants to make an essay on incest and pop culture and didn't bring up anime. Don't age restrict me, please. This video is literally talking about pornography, bro. YouTubers are the worst. This is the least studied video essay I've ever been randomly recommended. Yeah. So those are my opinions on it. I think this is a really crazy video. If it gets recommended to you, don't watch it. I don't know why YouTube is recommending this. This channel only has 10,000 subscribers. The video itself has 600,000 views. So let's not continue that because they're probably getting paid from this. And this is bad. I hope they get age restricted. I mean, they had a sex scene from Game of Thrones included in this, so it's very possible. I just think this is so fucking insane. So, what do you guys think? Leave a like if you liked it. Comment below. If there's any other topics you want me to touch on, I will. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye, guys.